The city never fully goes dark. Even at 2 a.m., there's a glow, blue-white light leaking from 1,000 apartment windows, each one a screen, each screen a portal to something being sold. She's in one of those windows, 31 years old, $112,000 a year, the kind of salary her parents mentioned in hushed, reverent tones when she got the offer. The kitchen behind her is granite and stainless steel, cold and expensive and perfect. She's standing at the counter in the dark, phone in hand, watching her checking account the way you watch a wound, not because looking helps, but because you can't stop. After rent, the car, the loans, the insurance, the subscription she's forgotten the names of, the credit card minimum that never seems to move, she has $340 left, 11 days until payday. 6 figures, $340. 3 miles away, in an apartment with secondhand furniture and windows that don't quite seal against the cold, another woman is already asleep. She earns $64,000. She has 4 months of expenses in a savings account she hasn't touched. She turned her phone off at 9 p.m. Same city, different universe. And the woman at the granite counter, the one with the 6-figure salary and the 2 a.m. math, still believes she's the one winning. Something happened to the number $100,000. For decades, it lived in the cultural imagination as a threshold, the place where financial anxiety ended and real life began, the salary that meant you'd made it, the benchmark that separated struggling from stable. But the number never accounted for what the world would become around it. Because while $100,000 stayed fixed in the mythology, everything else moved. Rent moved, healthcare moved, student loan balances moved, the cost of staying socially legible in a modern city, the right neighborhood, the right phone, the right professional wardrobe moved. It all moved in the same direction, at a pace salaries were never designed to match. The threshold didn't disappear, it just quietly stopped meaning what it used to mean. And something, or someone, knew that before you did. Here's what the machine understood before most people did. A person earning 6 figures is not wealthy. They are expensive to maintain. And there is a profound difference between those two things. The infrastructure built around high earners is not accidental, it is architectural. Banks extend larger credit limits to people with higher incomes, not as a reward, but as a larger container for debt. Apartment buildings in desirable cities calibrate rent at exactly the percentage of income that feels manageable but leaves nothing behind. Apple releases a new iPhone on a cycle tuned not to technological necessity, but to the outer edge of what feels too soon to upgrade. And she upgrades because her phone is also her professional identity now, and her professional identity is something she cannot afford to let slip. Streaming services multiply at price points individually invisible, collectively significant. Each subscription under $10, each one a rounding error on its own. Together, 14 of them, auto-renewing in the dark, they become a fixed cost she pays without remembering she agreed to. The system doesn't trap people dramatically, it traps them conveniently. The data, when you face it directly, is disorienting. In 1985, the median home price in an American city was roughly 3 times the median household income. Today, in major metros, the cities where the 6-figure jobs actually exist, that ratio sits closer to 11. A woman earning $110,000 in San Francisco, Austin, or New York is looking at home prices that begin around $800,000 and don't apologize for it. The math doesn't work. It was never meant to work. It was meant to keep her renting, paying permanently, accumulating nothing, building equity in someone else's asset while her own net worth flatlines. Meanwhile, the average American credit card now charges above 22% interest. Graduate degree holders, the demographic most likely to reach 6 figures, carry average student loan balances above $80,000. Together, those two obligations alone can consume more than a quarter of a high earner's take-home before she's bought a single thing. She isn't spending recklessly. She is servicing a life the system helped her build, with products the system sold her, using debt the system extended, at terms the system set. The machine doesn't need her to fail. It only needs her to keep running. But the trap has a more elegant layer, and it runs not through her bank account, but through her phone. Social comparison is not vanity. It is a survival instinct the attention economy has weaponized. Every morning, before the coffee has cooled, she has already absorbed 40 pieces of information about how other people are living. A kitchen renovation, a promotion, a vacation that involved business class, and a hotel with a pool that reflected the sunset perfectly. None of it was designed to make her feel inadequate. All of it does anyway. She doesn't buy the bag because she wants the bag. She buys it because her nervous system, ancient, tribal, calibrated over millennia to monitor her position within the group, registers its absence as a social signal she can't afford to send. And the companies manufacturing that bag have spent decades and billions ensuring that signal arrives precisely, repeatedly, and always at the moment she is most tired and most susceptible. This is not weakness. This is a woman navigating a psychological environment engineered against her, without a map, by an industry that profits every time the navigation fails. The purchase goes on the card. The balance moves. The minimum adjusts upward. The machine exhales. There is a word for what the six-figure salary has become. It is not security. It is a higher resolution version of the same anxiety that exists at every income level below it, just with better lighting and a more convincing wardrobe. The woman at the granite counter is not failing. She is performing, exhaustively and precisely, the life the system designed for someone at her income level. The neighborhood that costs what it costs because that's where people like her live. The car that signals what it signals because leasing made it feel accessible. The restaurant, the gym, the skincare routine, the professional development course she paid for in November and opened once, each one individually justifiable, together a full-time occupation with no days off and no equity. Money at this level stops being a resource. It becomes a maintenance fee, a subscription to a version of herself that requires constant renewal and never quite feels complete. Every upgrade becomes a new baseline. The anxiety doesn't leave, it simply redecorates. The woman with the $64,000 salary is not behind. She made a different calculation earlier, that the real measurement was never the number, but the gap, the distance between what comes in and what must go out. That gap is where options live, where the ability to say no lives, where the capacity to leave something that isn't working, a job, a city, a version of herself she has outgrown, quietly waits. Her apartment has second-hand furniture and cold drafts, and no granite countertop. It also has no minimum payment due on the 15th, no lease on a car she doesn't own, no subscription she forgot to cancel, quietly billing her in the dark. On certain nights, when the city hums outside her window and the room is still, she feels something the other woman, 3 miles away, phone in hand, watching the number that never grows, cannot quite locate. She calls it hers. All of it. The time, the morning, the choice about what comes next. The six-figure salary was supposed to be the ending, the place the story resolved. But the machine was never selling endings. It was selling the feeling that the next thing, the next raise, the next upgrade, the next tier of the life that looks like something, would finally be the thing that made the anxiety stop. It never is. That's not a design flaw. That's the design. Seeing it clearly doesn't require a financial advisor or a spreadsheet or a 5-step plan. It only requires one question, asked honestly in a quiet moment before the phone is in your hand. Is your salary funding your life or funding the performance of one? The city still glows. The screens are still on. And somewhere at a granite counter at 2 a.m., a woman is still watching a number that should mean something. The code was always there, in the interest rate, in the lease agreement, in the algorithm that knew what to show her before she knew she wanted it. She just needed to stop looking at the balance long enough to finally see the system holding it.